my name is Erica, and today I'm going to be telling you some of the books that I've read recently by Black authors. I've been getting so many great recommendations from everyone on book Twitter and just in general in life. One of the books I finished recently was Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo, and I had only heard amazing things about this book. It is written in verse, which I loved, and it made the reading experience amazing. I've been reading a lot of nonfiction lately, and I just needed something that would kind of be quick and something that would be fun to read. I needed something that would get me back into reading fiction because I've been so focused on only reading nonfiction. I've had a really hard time getting back into reading, like, just in general. So I thought that this book really helped me get back into wanting to read more fiction and not focus so much on like acting books and stuff. So this book follows these two separate girls. So I actually read it on my Kindle. For some reason I did have a hard time realizing that it follows two different point of views. Like, I saw that it did, but I didn't realize when it was switching. I don't know why. I think it was just because I was on my Kindle and I wasn't really focused on the beginning of each chapter. So we follow Yahaira and Camino. I'm sorry if I'm not saying those names right. Camino lives in the Dominican Republic and Yahaira lives in New York City. Their father dies in a really tragic plane crash. They're both devastated and they're both suffering in different ways. And they come to find out that they didn't really know their father as well as they thought because they end up being half sisters. They communicate with each other and they start to build their relationship. They have to adjust to this new life and have to adjust to getting to know each other, but they start to build a really beautiful relationship and a friendship and a bond that just makes it such a beautiful story. I love this book. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, and I just love the way it was written. I love books that are written in verse. Not only is writing in verse such a beautiful way of expression, it just adds so much to the story. There's not as much detail in it, but it's still very specific, and it's just really lovely. And sometimes I feel like it's more visually appealing in a book. It was such a good book, and I'm really happy I finally read it. I love the two different point of views and their experiences and their love for their father, but also the mysteries and the hurt that they have because of that. I just really love the relationship building between them. Just a really good way to get back into reading fiction books, and I just had such a good time with it. The next book that I read was actually a book of poetry called Say Her Name, edited by Zella Elliott, but there are a lot of different authors in this. There's a bunch of different poems in here that are uplifting Black voices and empowering women. I thought this was a really beautiful book of poetry, especially with everything going on in the world, and it teaches you empathy, and as a white person, obviously you really need that, and you need to be open to listening to your peers and those who are suffering because of this, and I really enjoyed it. It only took me a little bit to read it because it's pretty short, but there's also beautiful illustrations in it. I think it's important to listen to them and hear them and just find your heart in all this. It's important now, and it has been for years. These poems are based off of real people, real experiences, and it's a beautiful reading experience. So I highly recommend it if you're looking for more books, or especially poetry in general. Definitely check this one out. Well, the last book that I just finished recently was The Stars and the Blackness Between Them. I loved this book. I did give it 4 out of 5 stars, only because I think pacing was a little off for me, but this book was amazing. So we have Audra, who is living in Trinidad with her family. She lives with her mom. Her dad lives in the US, and then we also follow Mabel, who is living in Minnesota. So Audra is living with her grandma and her mom, and she's very close to her grandma. She kind of has a tense relationship with her mom. As Audra grows up, she gets kind of involved in the church. It's really important to her family. Audra doesn't have a lot of friends, but then she meets a girl in her church who's actually the pastor's daughter. They become really close, and Audra ends up falling in love with her. Her mom thinks that she's become really dedicated to the church. Her grandma has more of an understanding that maybe Audra is in love with this girl, but she doesn't want to make Audra uncomfortable by saying so. So Audra and this girl are on the beach together. Her mom catches her, and then she gets in a really terrible fight, and she sends her off to the United States to live with her dad. Audra is just so heartbroken, so upset, and she's just so hurt that her mom would do this to her. Meanwhile, we have Mabel, who's living with her family in Minnesota. She's also struggling with her sexuality. She was dating a boy, but she knows she has feelings for girls, but she's never really been able to express that to her family. She doesn't really know how to. And Mabel has been having some issues. She's starting to feel really sick. Audra ends up hanging out with Mabel because her dad wants her to make friends, and her dad and Mabel's parents are very close. So they end up spending time together. Audra really starts to find her place because of Mabel. She makes friends at school and starts to become more confident in who she is. And then we find out that Mabel has cancer. Mabel's having a hard time accepting this, and Audra's really hurting for her friend. To gain some perspective on life, Mabel ends up reading a book that she finds in her house by this man who was convicted of a crime he never committed. He's on death row. She writes to him not knowing if he's even alive or not, but then he ends up writing back, and both have different perspectives on life right now because because of course they both only have a certain amount of time to live, but also it really helps Mabel to find happiness in her last year of life and to find love with Audra and to be fully open and expressing that and not allowing others to make her hide because of that. It's just so beautiful. I absolutely love this book. Like I said, I did give it 4 out of 5 stars. The pacing was a little weird. I love that when it switched between seasons, it uses poems about star signs to switch between the times of the year, which is really nice. I guess for the most part it worked really well, but there were some moments where I was like, oh, we're already like this far, like all this time has passed. But overall, I love this book. I loved the point of view. I love the voices of the characters. There's so much pain in this, but it's also real. Like, it's so truthful. I love this book. I enjoyed this so much, and it really hits you in the feels. I highly recommend this book if you have not read it. It's a pretty quick read and just absolutely wonderful. I just love the magic of it. There's some magical realism in it a little bit because Mabel's having these dreams that are very vivid, but they're dreams about Audra's grandma, and that was a little like weird to me. I'm not a huge magical realism person, but it worked really well in this book, and the ending just leaves you confused a little bit, but also in awe at the same time. So overall, I love this book. Alright guys, those are all the books I've read recently, and I've enjoyed them all so much. That is what I have for you guys today. If you like this video, be sure to give it a nice little thumbs up. If you want to keep following me on this booktube journey, please subscribe to my channel. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at ErikaAGobble. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you soon with another video. Bye!